I am in a comfy, cozy mood today, and I want to draw something fall themed. So that's what I'm going to do. This video is not sponsored by any of the companies mentioned. Hi, Shannon Rowe Jackson here, also known as Caution Artist at Play. Fall is my favorite time of year, and it always brings me so much inspiration. And one of the things that I love to draw and paint almost every year is pumpkins. And so that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to be showing you the recent pumpkin drawing I did. I am using oil pastels and colored pencils. This is not going to be a step-by-step tutorial. I'll talk a little bit about my techniques, maybe throw on some fun, relaxing music. This is just going to be kind of a Zen video where we can kind of feel the fall vibes, I think. So let's just jump into it. For this piece, I am working on a piece of the Lux Archival sanded paper. This is technically a colored pencil paper, but it is my favorite paper for pastels, especially oil pastels. I am using my Van Gogh oil pastels along with various colored pencils for details, mainly the Faber-Castell Polychromos and Caran d'Ache Pablos because they are really good on sanded paper, and I'm able to get any detail that I want. But you will also see me bring in a few of my Prismacolors and some of my Holbein colored pencils as well, depending on the colors that I need, because I don't have a ton of Pablos, and sometimes the Prismacolor pencils just hit. So you're going to see me come through. I'm working section by section, mainly going in the background first and then working my way forward. I am laying in my pastels and I'm blending them out with various tools, mainly soft tools, and then I also have some generic eyeshadow applicators that I use. Those are my favorite kinds of tools to use to blend out my oil pastel. And then you'll see me come in with my pencils on top for the details. And once you have enough pastel down, when you lay your pencils on top, you can actually blend the pencils right in directly with the pastels. That's one of the great things about this paper is that it grips so many layers and it grips a lot of pigment. So you can layer, you can come in with detail, and then you can mix things together if you need to once you have enough pigment down. So you're going to see me go back and forth that way. This is very much the same way that I work in all the rest of my other oil pastel drawings. I do have other videos about these techniques on the channel, and I will link them in the description below. This painting is inspired by my favorite fall theme, and that is pumpkins. I love pumpkins. I'm a little bit obsessed with pumpkins. We love growing them. One year we grew these giant pumpkins. Oh, I was so excited. Well, we grew them a couple years, but the first year, it was like magic. I couldn't believe how large they got. And sadly, this year, our pumpkins did not do well. We had something get into the garden and it dug them up. And it was really, really sad. And so I had to do another painting this year so that I could get my pumpkin on, so to speak. I need to have my pumpkins in October. I absolutely have to. And I like to decorate my whole house with pumpkin-themed decor as well. It's just one of my favorite fall things. And of course, I like all fall things. It is my favorite season, and so in September, I'm really feeling the apples, and in November, you'll see me draw a lot of different corn-type things and leaves, but overall, I think pumpkins are my favorite. And we also have grown some squash, and this little squash that I'm drawing here is a kind of squash that we have grown in our garden. My husband actually works in a garden as well, and at the end of last year, they had a bunch of pumpkins that they hadn't sold, and so they sent them home with workers, and so some of these pumpkins come from that. I can't explain my excitement when I saw those pumpkins. I could not resist taking a bunch of reference photos, so that's what this photo is from. It's actually from some photos I took last year. But I just feel like there's something a little bit magical about pumpkins and squash, and you know, it really is like the perfect harvest theme. So I'm just going back and forth now with my colored pencils on this little squash and bringing in some color and some detail. And as you see, I'm going to go in on this pumpkin. This pumpkin is going to be a really lumpy, bumpy pumpkin. It's really, really interesting. It was a little bit chilly in my studio, so it was harder for me to blend the oil pastel than it usually is. They blend a little bit easier if you're in a warm room, but they still blended out beautifully on this paper. What is your favorite fall theme? I'm definitely a Halloween girl, so I think that's another reason why I love pumpkins so much, but pumpkins are one of those things that could be Halloween or harvest. My favorite Halloween kind of thing, though, is probably witches. I love witch-themed things. Ghosties are kind of cute, too. I have a couple, ghosty things in the house, but I do love me some witchy stuff. So what is your favorite harvesty thing, and what is your favorite Halloween theme? Let me know in the comments below. One of the things that I am trying to pay close attention to when working on these pumpkins is the direction that they're going in. I want to pay attention to the perspective and get the curve of the pumpkin. So all the lines have to not only pay attention to the curve to create form, but they also have to go in the right direction to kind of show perspective. And so I'm trying to be very careful about that. This one was kind of easy because it's almost front on. Some of the others were a little bit more interesting because they're on their side or they are a little bit diagonal. And it really made for a lot of fun trying to kind of figure out those angles and those curves. I actually sketched this out in my sketchbook first. It was a small thumbnail sketch. I think it was like a 4x5, something like that. Got it sketched out freehand in my sketchbook, and then I scanned it in and blew it up to an 8x10 size. And I made adjustments on that before I transferred it to my good drawing paper. I always like to sketch on a separate piece of paper so that I'm not worrying about messing up my really expensive drawing paper by doing a bunch of different sketch marks and erasing and things like that. And I find it's easy to work smaller in my sketchbook while I'm trying to come up with a concept and then just make adjustments later when I blow it up. Of course, we all have different ways of working. I've just found that that's the way that works best for me. And it's kind of neat too. It's neat to look into my sketchbook and see a little mini version of this and then see what it turned into in its final form. It's a great way to look back. And it also gives me a little bit more time to work out my ideas and my preliminary sketch, because when I work small, it doesn't necessarily take me as long, and it gives me more time on either end to get things done. These bumps were really interesting too because they're kind of gross, but I really loved the variety of texture and different colors that I got in this reference photo. And, it just shows that pumpkins are cute even if they're not perfect. And it's kind of a nice way to look at life too, right? None of us are perfect, but it doesn't mean we aren't beautiful in our own way. And I think that this pumpkin is definitely, it's definitely a good representation of that theory. I was a little bit like, wow, I was trying not to make it look too pimply when I was working. I found it to be really interesting, and honestly, it was one of the funnest pumpkins to work on in this because there were all these just interesting bumps. And I'm paying attention to my light source and my shadows when I'm going in here. And I'm using various browns and some purples and some magentas to do the shading in these orange parts. And actually, I'm not using a ton of actual orange pencils for these. There's a lot of different ochres and, a lot of different tans and browns and things like that going into it as well. But I do find that purple and magenta are a great way to shade an orange object because they have that little bit of red in them, and orange also has red. If I were to go for like a straight blue, things would get grayed out and muddy, but if I want a vibrant shadow, I'm going to bring in like a magenta or a purple because they both have blue, which is the opposite of orange on the color wheel, so it's going to dull it down just a little bit, but it also has red, which links it to orange. And orange has yellow in it, and purple is opposite yellow in the color wheel, so it offsets the yellow that's in the orange as well. And I find that that link is what really brings a nice vibrant shadow. So when working on a colorful object, if you want to have colorful shadows, kind of look for a split complementary color as opposed to a straight complementary color to do that. Or even something that is nearly adjacent to your base color, but has just a little bit of your complementary color in it. Like in this case, magenta. And this one was really interesting. This kind of, this is another one that got gross for a minute because this one was like a faded orangey, almost skin tone pumpkin. It was a very strange pumpkin. I'm not sure actually if it's a kind of pumpkin or if it's considered to be a squash, but it was really interesting. And I had to mix a bunch of different colors with my oil pastels because I didn't have a color that was a good base color for this. And I was able to do that. You saw me scribble a bunch of different colors on there and then just blend it on the paper, and it worked just fine. And then of course I'm coming in with various browns and tans and peachy kind of colors for the shading with my colored pencils. And this was another one that I had to pay attention to the perspective because of the angle that it was at. Now for the big one. Our main star of the show. Well, my main star of the show. Just a classic pumpkin right up front. And again, I'm just coming in and blending out the underlayers first. This part does not have to be perfect because the bulk of the detail is going to be done with colored pencil. And the stems are fun too because I didn't have to cover as much of those with my pastel. Because the stems are kind of rough, I'm letting a lot of that paper texture show through. And I'm doing a lot more pencil work. And when you do the pencil work without a lot of pastel down, it does tend to have a little bit more of that gritty texture. And that's perfect for a nice rough kind of woody stem. I'm working in my shadow areas first, and then I'm coming forward. Again, this one was another interesting one because it was laying almost diagonally. So trying to pay attention to the direction of those ridges in the pumpkin and the curvature of them to create the angle of the pumpkin as well as the form of the pumpkin. And I'm just paying attention to my lights and my shadows for those ridges. And I came in a little bit rough at first to create those ridges, and then I'm going to blend it out a little bit better because I don't want any harsh outlines. I want it to be shading. And I apologize, you might be able to hear my cat in the background making noise. He's a little bit rambunctious this morning, so I don't know if you'll hear him. He's he's an adventurous little cat, that's for sure. Well, big cat. He's a big cat. He's out there scratching on a door right now. He likes to make mischief. And then I'm coming in with really dark purples for those shadows at the bottom because I didn't want to go straight black on this pumpkin. I wanted them to still be colorful in a way that would kind of blend out. And it was kind of a reddish purple. I think that one might have been my raisin color by Holbein. I used a lot of that in the shadow areas of this piece. And then I'm going to come in with the front part. I'm going to come in mainly with highlights with my colored pencils to try and get the form of these ridges because this part is going to be the lighter part of the pumpkin, and then I'll come in with my shadows after. You can go back and forth between lights and darks using this kind of technique because the paper does so well to allow you to layer on top. But I mainly come in with my base color first, and then I come in with my, shadows and highlights after for this technique. It's a little bit messy, so I keep a drafting brush on hand, and I have a piece of glassine down to help protect the areas that I've worked on. You could probably hear my cat running. Sorry, a little bit of a disruption there. Oh, he's funny. But yeah, overall, this was just a piece that I wanted to do. Lately, I've been doing a lot of artwork just for video sake. So, like reviews and things like that. This was just a piece that I wanted to do because I loved pumpkins. And so I wasn't quite sure how I was going to approach this video at first, but hopefully you have been able to work on something of your own in the background. And, maybe I've taught you a little something, but really this is kind of a spend some time with me while I work on one of my favorite fall themed artworks. Just doing my touch-ups now and going back and forth. And there are areas where there's going to be crumbs, but I'm able to blend them out just fine. And this is my piece. What do you think? Let me know what your favorite fall themed item is. This piece is available now on my website and as prints. I will link that in the description below if you are interested. All right, folks, thank you so much. Sorry if this was kind of a strange video. I didn't have a lot of direction. I just knew I wanted to draw pumpkins and I wanted to share that with you. And so that's what I did. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you are enjoying your fall season, and I will see you next time. You have a fantastic day. Bye.